So here we are on the Biz Gone Social podcast, sponsored by Restoration Ninja Marketing. And I'm so glad to be here. My promise to you, as always, is I want to give you a little bit of verbal caffeine that's going to energize your business and help you stay social. Because after all, don't you want to be the business that everyone's talking about? I know I do. And I'm so glad to have Colin with me today. Welcome, Colin.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Lorraine.
So tell my audience a little bit about what you do and who you serve.
Yeah, so I'm a multi-business owner. I own 4 different businesses. It's all I've ever really done in my career is entrepreneurship. And as I owned those first 2 or 3 businesses, I always kind of was the financial guy within the business, which is a little unusual. Most business owners are, very sales focused or very product focused, more the creative type. And, I always had that type of focus. It just happened to be focused on the financial end of the business. And so that became a real passion of mine and something not only with my own businesses, but with my entrepreneur group and friends. And so that just ended up becoming the business that I founded. So we're called FinElevate, and we are a niche fractional CFO type business. There's nothing quite like what we do. What we do is actually provide dashboards and with the training necessary to understand your financials. And then we help build up the entrepreneur and their team. And ultimately, we help our clients dramatically grow their profits.
Yeah, it's always really, really important to keep track of your finances. I have a few sheets myself that keep me on goal and what I need to do, and I need to step it up. So did you just wake up one day and decide, gee, I really want to work with entrepreneurs on finance, or you were bent towards it? So what was there something that catapulted you into it?
Yeah. So interestingly, COVID had a major factor in that, when COVID occurred and everyone was kind of getting PPP loans and having to go that route, it was a big thing where my entrepreneur group, my friends, all of us were talking almost daily about what was happening, trying to understand what was going on in the world. And that became a big turning point for me, where people were calling upon me, asking me, because they knew this was kind of my focus in business. And so as that happened, it kind of planted a seed for me. And all of my other businesses sell to big companies or a lot of enterprise type clients. And so it was a big passion of mine also to find a business where I could work directly with entrepreneurs. It's just, I've always loved connecting with them. And so those 2 things kind of, converged on this idea that ultimately became FinElevate.
Neat. And so what would you say are some game-changing financial concepts that most business owners don't know about?
Yeah, I would say one right out of the gate, and if anyone is not doing this, they should. You have to have premium pricing. So, it is a fundamental power to have premium pricing. And a lot of business owners, especially newer businesses, especially businesses who haven't really sat down with pencil and paper and done the math on it, they think like, oh, it's easier to sell because my prices are lower, right? And the reality is maybe so, but you then have to turn around and service that work. And so the flaw in that is that then you start cutting every corner. It's cutting corner on the employee side, cutting corners on the product or whatever goes into your product side. All of it starts to get diminished, right? You can't afford to do your marketing as strong as you would. And so ultimately, it's kind of a short-sighted way of looking at business. Very common. We all go through that mistake at some point in our careers. But that would be one. And then a couple of the other ones I would say is just, don't be scared of your financials. You've got to learn more and more about your numbers as you grow. That's part of being a professional. Understanding not only do I make money or not, but understanding what's going on with my balance sheet. Even good experienced entrepreneurs who really focus on profit. If I ask them what's going on with their balance sheet, they're like, I don't know. I mean, there's a few numbers on there, but what do they mean? How do I move them? What's good? What's bad? And so it's just really continuing that education is something I'm really passionate about pushing entrepreneurs and helping them on that journey. Yeah.
Now when you work with somebody, a lot of people, are, they're a little bit private about their finances and
Yep.
everything. So when you work with someone for, that somebody's interested in maybe doing work with you, what is the first thing that you both talk about?
Well, the very first thing is, hey, I'm a business owner too. So I understand their perspective. Before I ever had anything to do with finance, I was in manufacturing businesses and industrial distribution businesses. And, I was in other businesses that are completely outside the realm of what I'm doing now. And so I get what it's like to be them. In fact, my businesses were turnaround businesses that were not doing well. And so no matter what challenge they're facing, I promise I've been there before. And so the first thing is like, look, this is a journey, and it doesn't matter where either of us are on certain elements of that journey, but we want to work together to get better. And so it's a better everyday mentality. And so that's really the very first conversation I have is like, hey, what are your goals? Let's just set aside for a minute what is happening right now. That's the, pain that you're dealing with. What are your ultimate goals of where you're trying to get this thing to? And the better I understand that, the more we can just be open and honest. Now we're working in the right direction.
Yeah. Now, a quick question is like, I was looking at your name, which is FinElevate. Where did you get that name from?
We just came up with it. It was basically looking at different domains and looking at different businesses and kind of, a lot of brainstorming around like, what are we trying to accomplish? And really, it's just the financial elevation. We believe it's paramount for, our clients, and not just, to be clear, it's not just, hey, we want a business that makes a lot of money so the business owner does great. It's really helping them have a broader view of that. Like, what's the impact on their team? What's the impact on the other companies, the vendor partners that they work with? A more stable, healthy business can better support its customers, its community. It just goes on and on. And so we kind of see that as our mission.
Yeah, I'm thinking about your mission and everything and who you help, and you see a lot of different business owners. So business owner one that you work with is someone who is financially doing pretty well. So for somebody financially doing pretty well, what is the one common thing that you catch all the time with somebody doing financially well that they could do better at?
Well, a lot of times the clients we work with who are doing well financially they're like one man or one woman against the world. They have not systematized what they do to where it can actually be shared by multiple people. And so, and I've been there. Again, every mistake you can make, every challenge you can face, practically, I feel like I've been there. I've had a company that made money and people were looking at me like, wow, this guy's being pretty successful and he really knows what he's doing. And in reality, when you looked under the hood, I was the only one who understood the numbers in the business. I was the only one. I mean, it was like I was every day trying to like force the will of my team and the focus in the industry into something that would work, because I hadn't yet learned how to truly uplift my team and delegate things. And so, that's a huge one we work with. And a lot of times entrepreneurs have the hang up that their belief is that their team, if I tell my team we want to have a better year than last year, they think owner wants to be richer than they were last year. And they get caught up in that. And so sometimes having an outside third party come in and say, hey, you want to grow in your career. Obviously, the owner wants to do better, but you want to grow in your career. That means becoming more of a professional, and professionals know their numbers and they know how to get good numbers and they know how to work them. So that's part of what we're helping businesses with, is teach their team.
Love that. So business owner number two that's just scraping by, but they know that they need help with their finances. What are you seeing there?
Yeah, business owner number two has a hang up with profitability, right? Let's be honest. So if I've got long-term sustained profit, then a lot of my cash problems go away. Even if I don't have a great business for cash, the cash problems eventually work themselves out if I keep making money month after month, quarter after quarter, and year after year. So the business owner who's scraping by typically has some sort of a fatal flaw in their business model. A lot of times it's what I talked about earlier. It's they don't have premium pricing. They don't yet have the confidence in what they're doing, or they have not given themselves permission to have strong premium pricing. The other one, and this might resonate from your experience also, is they don't have good deal flow. Like they don't have enough leads. They don't have strong enough marketing to where they have confidence to raise their prices, and so those things seem to go hand in hand. And then the other one I'll say is maybe they're a company that had a bigger year a couple of years ago and they've kind of fallen back down. They have not adjusted their overhead and their overall cost structure to their revenue realities. So it's one of those three things, probably 90% of the time is what we see.
Yeah, absolutely. I even see it in some of the businesses that I work with. So it's very interesting. Okay, we're going to switch gears a little bit, have a little bit of
Okay.
fun here. It's the part of us that we get a little real here. So, what is one thing in your business that probably was maybe your maybe just starting out and everything was your biggest mistake, and how did you correct it?
Well, in the beginning of my career, so I took on, it was a turnaround company, and it wasn't a turnaround because I was brought in, I was some sort of hotshot. I was 21, 22 years old coming into a business. It was a mess. I mean, I was kind of looking around pointing, being like, well, I know that's not right. I know that's not right. I had no idea what the right version was, but you could just tell they weren't right. And so, one of the things that I had to, it took me several years of trying to keep that business off the ropes and eventually learning is that we have to make money on every deal. Like, we're not doing it for practice. We're not doing it, we're not just getting reps in. This is not a dress rehearsal. And so it really became obsessing over the margin of our business. And I grew the margin dramatically. It was around 30% originally, and I grew it up to over 60%. And the way I did that was a combination of slowly and incrementally raising prices, but doing it smart. In other words, I've got to know on every single deal, what's my competition? Is this a customer who just buys from me no matter what? Or is this a customer who shops me? What is the competitive situation? And then at the same time, every single, and again, this is a manufacturing company, every single nut and bolt, every single piece of metal, it was like, how can I buy it cheaper? How can I keep fewer on the shelf? And so just that grind mentality, I wish I had started that 3 or 4 years sooner, and it would have started the path, because that was ultimately the only way I could turn it around, was to fix the micro and then slowly win the macro game over time.
Yeah, no, that's good. We you talk to a lot of entrepreneurs. I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs. We work with entrepreneurs. What is one piece of advice that you could give that would help them, encourage them, and help them move forward today?
Surround yourself with great people. So we talked earlier about confidence. A lot of confidence comes from the people you're surrounding yourself with. And we all do it. None of us are perfect, but when we're surrounded by the wrong kind of people who have a negative mindset, people who, aren't living the life that they know will get them the results they want, then we just kind of walk around. There's a bit of a black cloud element to that. And so one of the things I always recommend is surrounding yourself with a mastermind group. It doesn't have to be a big formal group. You don't have to go join one of the ones that cost thousands and thousands of dollars a year. It could be as simple as 2 or 3 friends getting together and having a phone call or a Zoom call once a month to say, we all have similar goals. What are you doing about your goals? And what are you doing? And I mean, it's amazing, right? We all know this, that when you're surrounding yourself with people who you want to live up to their expectations because their expectations are high, and you only brought them along because your expectations for them are high, it has this kind of simultaneous, I'm trying to be a leader and a follower at the same time. And it has an incredibly powerful effect. When you think about it over a long period of time, there's almost nothing that has a bigger impact than, who you surround yourself with.
Yeah, I think about, I've always been part of some mastermind, and recently I had joined a book club, which is,
Yeah.
Don't think of that as being a amazing thing or amazing mastermind, but it has been the best thing that I ever have done. There's like attorneys in the group. There's people who are just IT people, people who are just direct sales, and they are amazing people. And it's actually spurred me on to do better. And I've learned so much we've been going through different business books. Now we're doing some kind of personality book, but last year we did the Pumpkin Plan, which was a really
Yep.
pretty interesting book. And actually helped, it made me change a few things of the way I was doing things. So yeah, you can't surround yourself with people who are always negative and that the world's always falling apart. That's why I tell people don't watch the news, because the news is never going to make you feel good. You know,
No, no, and to that point, they've realized that that's not what sells for them. And so they're going to keep feeding you anything negative they can find. Right. And
yeah,
that's really disappointing that that's their approach, but it is a reality we have to face.
absolutely. Well, I want to ask you one more question. A book that you've read that might, help somebody.
So I've got a book that I read at least once a year when I'm facing a big challenge. It's The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. And I'm so passionate about that book because basically it's about stoicism. And so it's about, kind of the guy who's the emperor at the time of as the Roman Empire was starting to kind of wane and beginnings of crumbling. And so it's a guy who kind of was writing a diary to himself, and he's talking about, the challenges that he's facing. The outside world might think everything's great, but inside he sees what's really happening. And so Ryan Holiday writes books about stoicism and this kind of mindset. And what I love is that if we think about like what we want for our children, we want them to have, if you think in kind of a simplistic, naive view, we want them to have this perfect life where everything just falls in place for them and everything's great. And yet, for any one of us, if we talk about the greatest successes in our own life, we can look back and shortly before that success was a major failure, a major challenge, something we had to fight through and overcome. And that's what propelled us to the greatness. And so it's kind of about recognizing that it's so hard to recognize in the moment that you're dealing with the raw material for your future greatness. But that's what I love about that book. That's what it really helps you do, is kind of recognize, hey, the obstacle is the way. I don't want no obstacles. I want to build myself to be greater than my biggest obstacles.
Yeah, I mean, there's another way of looking at that too, is that, obstacles or sometimes even failure happens, but you can always learn from it,
Right.
and if you learn something from it, then you win.
Yes.
I have a friend who's a PE teacher, and she always says, if you had fun, you won. And
Yeah.
it's like we every once in a while we'll fool around and we'll play tennis or something like that. I'm a terrible tennis player because I just don't play. And
Yep.
we had so much fun. And then finally I said, well, when I miss the ball, can we get some little kid here just to come and go chase the balls? Because
Go grab it.
I'm getting too old to be chasing balls.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's been really real just getting to talk to you on just on the level of finance. And if somebody wants to get in touch with you, how would they do that?
Yeah. So the easiest way is, my website, which I'm sure will be in the show notes, FinElevate.com. We're on there. We're helping companies, like I said, make more money, helping them look at their finances differently, helping level up their team. And then also you can always get a hold of me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on there. It's just Colin Sanburg. And I love connecting with other entrepreneurs. Like I said, it's a huge passion of mine, whether they're going to be clients, we're going to do business together or not. That's not the goal to me. It's just really growing my entrepreneur network and, having more friends who have big goals and are on that journey.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you again for being a fantastic guest. And to everyone out there, this is Lorraine Duncan from the Biz Gone Social Podcast. See you next week. Bye.